Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Vincent Strange. I am the voice and the creator of the House of Strange podcast on Apple and Spotify. So, I wanted to do a little video, answer some questions, just to kind of get myself a little bit out there since we're a season and a half, almost 2 seasons in, and haven't really introduced myself or anything like that. I know a lot of people already know who I am, but I like the idea of sharing my process, or at least getting people more involved in understanding what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, that kind of thing. Trying to build engagement so it's not just here's a story every week. Have at it. The goal is eventually to get more interaction between myself and everyone listening, to like talk about the episodes, talk about lore, whatever have you. So we got a couple of questions I've been writing down from the last few days, so I'm going to go through those just to kind of help give you guys some insight on what I'm doing and everything behind it. So I get my ideas, realistically, through the internet. Let's be real. I'm on the internet all the time. My job is, when I'm not doing podcast work, my job is a researcher. So like I'm on the internet as it is. I've gotten really good at it. So it's one of those things where it's like you just be productive with it. Google. I really just at that time it's just using keywords to find folklore and stories out there, because realistically it's not hard to find. There's so much folklore out there. Um, but I really try to go and find pieces or just ideas of like, oh, this sounds interesting. What's this? What's that? Find an idea, and then I'll research that story to be like, all right, is there depth to it? Is there more than just a little blurb that I can turn into a full story? Wikipedia is a fantastic resource. I know a lot of people are naysayers about that, but first of all, we're talking folklore, so it doesn't matter. But Wikipedia also typically cites all their sources, so if you're looking for extra information, it's a great place to kind of like go there and click around and find more information. So really just gotten really good at exploring, looking for sources, keyword searching to figure out what would work as an episode. So this one, I don't remember the exact specific like moment. So the name of the House of Strange, I originally was using years ago to create merch. Thought it was an interesting idea. I thought I would give it a try. It was one of those, um, you buy it, then they print it, and then you get sent direct to you type of ordeals. And I would just work on designs for whatever I was doing. Um, but that didn't work out really well. I wasn't like, this sucks, this isn't a great process. I'm not a graphic designer, so it's really hard to come up with unique ideas. So like starting doing like a clothing brand thing is just way past my capacity, or at least it was at the time, because I'm just like, I can't do this. But I really liked the name, the House of Strange. Why wouldn't I? It's my got my name in it. Um, but I held on to it because I was like, I want to do something with this name. Maybe I can do something down the road. And I think from that point, the idea of a podcast had always been shifting back there and shuffling around and just ruminating. But I didn't really have an idea of like, what could I do, which is weird to think, because you think the House of Strange, it's like you kind of have an idea of exactly what kind of topic you would cover with a name like that. Like, unless you wanted to talk about like, what if I did a podcast called The House of Strange and it's all about like puppies and animals? Like, that would be silly. But I think listening to the Lore podcast by Aaron Mahnke through some of the years that I worked in a freezer, that really kind of like subconsciously got me the inspiration, because it's a fantastic podcast. His storytelling, like the way he tells his stories, oh, it's so good. Recommend listening to his if you want more content, because he's got hundreds and hundreds of episodes. I think he was probably a big inspiration too, but again, at that time I wasn't thinking about creating a podcast or doing anything creatively. I was just working at the time. So I think it was one of those subconscious things that got buried with the House of Strange name and what I was trying to, what I wanted to eventually do with it. So it wasn't eventually until just this last year, actually, that I was really bringing the idea back up into the forefront of my brain and thinking about it, that I finally had the inspiration to go, hey, I know what I want to do with this name now. I know how I can make a podcast work. And then I just jumped on it, and I mean, look where we're at now. I would say it's a big part of the reason, but maybe not the complete reason. Um, I love psychology. I took a psychology class in college. Was fascinated by it. I love reading about stuff about how humans work. Um, I'm currently reading a book called The Psychology of Persuasion. Fascinating. And I've got a couple other books on my to read list. But and then even in my current job as a UX researcher, I've had to go through courses on cognitive psychology, gestalt psychology, like stuff like that, to really understand human behavior, and it's always fascinating. So I think when I started doing the podcast episodes, I think that was an immediate conception into how do I want to do these stories, but do them unique. Because I don't want to be just like Aaron Mahnke's lore podcast. Like I can't compete with that. Like there's no way. And I didn't want to anyways, and I'm sure there's probably tons of other folklore-based podcasts out there. I haven't listened to them all, so I don't know what they're doing, and probably better if I don't. So for me, it was just like, well, let's tell the stories, because who knows all of that? Who really takes the time to listen to all these stories? But let's dig into them and find a way to connect them back to the human experience and learn more about both ourselves as humans and these stories, these folklore, urban legends, that kind of thing. So I thought immediately it was a great pairing. This one is. It really depends. It's hard to. I mean, for the first season, it really was just kind of like grab whatever sounds cool and just shove it into a season. There was no rhyme or reason for that one. It was just like it was the proof of concept. So it was like I want to grab a variety of different topics. That's why we have like some ghost stories, some haunted objects. We have UFO. We have cryptid. We have like the Hollow Earth nonsense stuff. Like I pulled from a lot of different directions because I wanted a variety to be like to kind of give everyone a taste of like this is where we can go. This is just a piece of like the directions that I could run with this show to show that there's so much more out there that we're not even touching. For season 2, it was a little bit more constrained on like I want to try to be a little bit more consistent with a theme to pick stories that revolve around it. So I think that's probably the answer to the question going forward is that I think about a theme for the season. I think about what that theme means in connection to the show itself, and then I start drafting out ideas for stories for that theme. Or I'll obviously get on Google and start looking at different stories and different folklore and stuff like that. Yes, so this kind of falls into what I was just saying. There are themes for each season. Season 1 did not have a theme just because it was, again, proof of concept. The test was, can I get this done? Can I do it? Now let me just grab a little bit of everything just to kind of like really, figure out what I like to tell stories about, figure out what pulls, audience listeners' interest the most, and then really just kind of like, just go with it and have a little fun with it. Season 2 has a little bit of a theme. It's not like it's not super tight, but the idea is like patterns that follow us. So like I mean the stories that we've gone through so far are about like recurring ideas or recurring themes or recurring patterns that we see, and the mechanisms that make those things persist. Like why do certain stories repeat across different cultures? Why do some ideas feel like they stick around even when they shouldn't? So it's definitely more analytical, and some of the stories are a little not like super specific, but again, this for me this season was more about how do I take season one and make it better in all aspects of it. So that's where we kind of I landed with season two. Um, Now season three, I can't give too many spoilers away for this one, but season three has a very specific theme. It's gonna be super awesome. I think everybody that's into that kind of subject is gonna love it. But I can't tell you what it is. But I'll tell you this: it made it a lot easier to pick stories for it once I kind of locked that in. So I'm hoping get going forward with multiple seasons, like season four, if I do season 4 or 5, whatever, that I can pick themes that are. I'm hoping that themes come along as easy as they do for three, so that makes it easier to kind of pick the stories. Because three is going to be an explosively bigger season by far comparatively, just because we have 30 episodes that I'm currently working on writing at the moment for this season to give you a lot of content. But it's so cool because the stories are varied, but they still fit the theme of what we're doing, and I will have more information on that once we get finished with season two. Because let's stay with what we're working on, and then I'll start giving you information on season three. Maybe. I think it depends on context. Yes, I do absolutely love space and astronomy. I think for the purpose of the show, it would have to still be folklore related. So, and I haven't specifically looked to see if there's any stories that are like that. But I feel like if there are, it's probably really ambiguous or really like specific cultures that have kind of stories like that. Or we could do like UFO alien type stories, but that's less about space and astronomy and more about like visitation and stuff like that, which I'm not really fond of. So I don't know if that would work its way into an episode or not, but maybe something else could come along with that. It's not a bad idea. It's definitely something I love. That's a tricky one. What story have I personally found the most interesting? I honestly feel like I have to go back and look at the list of stories. Um, and I have to try to not think of something and spoil it, because right now, if I had to pick an episode, I would have to say a draft that I wrote for season three. That it was fascinating in the content of what it is, and I loved the way that I was able to draft it out and write it in a way that it wasn't as disturbing as it could be. It is a disturbing story, but it's fascinating in the aspect of which I'm telling it through a different lens, especially trying the psychological lens. As of right now, it's probably the only story that will have a content warning on it because of some of the disturbing nature in it. I don't know. I'm trying not to actively go that like grotesque or disturbing, just because that's not like the goal. But like it shaped itself to be a wild story, and like even cutting out the viscera and like all the nature of the violence that is in there, like it's implied. Like you'll figure out what happens without having to like really need it spelled out for you. But I think that one probably is the most interesting, at least off the top of my head, because it grabbed me in such a different way. Um, but that's also really hard to say, because I've also written like of the few episodes that I've written for season three, they're all super interesting, like really interesting. Like it's really cool to see where we're going with this season, and I got to stop talking about it because I'm going to give something away. I'm like, we're not ready to go there yet, but just keep that in mind that season three is going to be amazing. But yeah, those were all the questions. Thanks for everybody that sent something in and turned this into a bigger spiel than it needed to be. Lots of big things to come. You said season two, we still got a handful of episodes to go. It'll finish out in mid-May. There will be a long gap, hopefully not too long, before season three kicks off. I'm aiming for late July, early August, but that depends on if I can get the episodes written fast enough, just because there's 30 of them, getting some recorded. There's some other surprises that I'm working on with that season to go. I'm also, writing a book because that kind of came along. I've been working on that for the last, I don't know how many weeks. So, like, I'm juggling different projects here, and so I want to make sure that I give myself time to get season 2 wrapped up and then put more of the effort into season 3. So that way we can get it rolling. But again, there's other surprises that are potentially going along with it. We'll see what happens, but I'll keep everyone updated as we get closer with more concrete information. But thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the questions. I appreciate everyone that keeps listening to the episodes, that comments them, that shares them, that tells me about them. Like, let's keep it up. And I will see you on season 3 and the rest of season 2. Thank you. Bye.